I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. It's the last day of the Christmas season. We'll take a look at what's ahead for the Pope and the Church in 2011. And New York gets some visitors from the East.
This is my 16th parade, and I enjoy it. I feel like a little kid.
Plus, if you haven't heard this Brooklyn native yet, you're in for a treat.
When you're listening to nothing but the best of oldies, you're listening to Magic 98.9.
Well, good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. It is just the 6th day of 2011, but it's already been a busy year for Pope Benedict. Wednesday, the pontiff visited sick children at a hospital in Rome. Benedict brought books, candy, and stuffed animals to young spina bifida patients at the Gemelli Hospital. He brought the gifts to mark the Epiphany. Benedict also blessed the children, spoke with their parents during the visit as well. Gemelli is the same hospital where Pope John Paul II was treated after the failed assassination attempt in 1981. Well, the year will only get busier for Benedict and the Catholic Church as a whole. And for more on what 2011 holds, we turn now to Currents contributor and blogger at Whispers in the Loggia, Rocco Palmo. Rocco, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Anytime, Matt. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you as well. Our first time talking since the ball dropped in Times Square, and we appreciate it as always. Of course, it is already a busy time of the year. You know, a lot of people after the Christmas season comes and goes, a lot of people think, well, things kind of die down, and they do to a certain extent. Benedict obviously keeping busy, but he's got a busy year ahead on the calendar.
Yeah, well, remember, Matt, at the Vatican, Christmas, like the world, Christmas doesn't end on December 25th. It just begins. So, of course, the Pope, as you said, was at Gemelli Hospital yesterday. Last week, he actually had 500 poor people served by Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity for lunch at the Vatican. First time that's happened in 10 years. And, beautiful event. But the Vatican year, the civil functions, if you will, begin on Monday. The Monday morning is the Pope's State of the World speech, or at least that's what it's become called.
Yeah.
It's a speech of the diplomatic corps, and he's expected to focus heavily on the persecution of Christians. So, and considering that's about a 4,000-word speech, that's it's a pretty heady thing to do 9 days into the year.
Yeah, that's not a light bit of speech making there at all. Now, coming up later on in the year, of course, the Pope travels all the time, but he's got some big trips actually coming up this year. The least of which is certainly not World Youth Day coming up in Spain.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of the marquee trip of the year, and that's this World Youth Day in Madrid in the third week of August. It's only held every 3 years on the global level. It actually takes place every year, but the other 2 years it's held just in the local dioceses. But this one, they're expecting that it's going to be the biggest World Youth Day ever. They're talking crowds possibly up to 2 million people.
Wow.
From around the world. The other kind of marquee trip of the year, for the third time as Pope, the Pope is going back to his home country of Germany. But for the first time, this one's going to be a state visit. So whereas, on his first trip he went to Cologne for World Youth Day in 2005 and then went back to Bavaria in 2006, this is going to be a visit to Berlin with all the ceremonies of the capital, speech to the to the Bundestag, to the German parliament. And then there are two other trips, Croatia in May, and then in November his second trip to Africa to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the evangelization of Benin. So, and then a couple trips in Italy, and next year will be a big one because the Holy Father is expected to go to Ireland, which of course has been pretty heavily hit by the sex abuse crisis, to go to the Eucharistic Congress in Dublin. But that's 2012. That's another story for another day.
There you go. We can talk about that about a year from now. How
Yeah.
about that? Well, coming up later on, of course, the Pope not the only one traveling. Pope Benedict, as we just talked about, has a busy schedule travel-wise, but U.S. bishops, I understand, also heading to Rome later this year.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is, I'll tell you, for me, this is Super Bowl in the Olympics. This is just shy of a conclave in terms of importance. In early November, the U.S. bishops begin what's called the Alimina visit, which is every bishop around the world is required every 5 years to make a visit to the tombs of the apostles Peter and Paul, and then to present himself to the Pope. That's what canon law says, but it's actually a bit more intense than that. When you with about 6 months before they go. The meetings begin in early November. The bishops of New York will actually be there for Thanksgiving week, so you won't be seeing Archbishop Dolan or Bishop DiMarzio on the float in the Macy's parade. Yeah. But they all have to present these extensive reports, and they get grilled on them. It's really a means of the Vatican holding the bishops and the dioceses accountable. And for the Americans to go, there are 15 regional groups from the USCCB that are going to be put under the Vatican's microscope, each 1 week at a time. So this visit could go on the better part of a year before it's completed, but it'll give us a better impression of what the Vatican thinks of the U.S. Church, its strengths, its weaknesses, its challenges, and really kind of prescribe remedies and ways for the U.S. Church to be better at fulfilling its mission.
Right. Now, you mentioned Ireland just a moment ago, and sex abuse crisis, of course, a very big thing there that's going on. Bring us up to date on the investigation and how that's going to proceed over the next several weeks.
Of course, last year the Vatican called for what was called an apostolic visitation, again, an investigation into the root causes of sex abuse and, more importantly, cover-up in Ireland, how this culture, came to condone, soul murder of children. But this month, the bulk of the visitations taking place. There are 6 leading cardinals and archbishops from outside of Ireland. Of course, Archbishop Dolan is the lone American, and they're going to be spending the month. Archbishop Dolan's responsible for the seminaries, and the others are responsible for each of the archdioceses of Ireland. And so their first task really is to meet with victim survivors and anyone who has been harmed by sex abuse in the church, also other priests, just to kind of, and to really take the temperature of, what went wrong and what the Irish Church can do better. The reports are supposed to be sent into the Vatican by Easter, and then by June we should see concrete steps from Rome as to, marching orders for the Irish Church to take. Okay. So, one other note too. I mean, in the midst of all of this, the first half of the year for the Pope is actually going to be pretty much stay at home. He's not traveling too much. But Lent begins late. March 8th is Ash Wednesday. But a week later, on the 15th of March or thereabout, the second book of Jesus of Nazareth that the Pope has taken to writing and using up all his free time should be released. And so if anyone doesn't have their Lenten reading yet, just hold the spot open on your bookshelf.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, the of course, sex abuse crisis, something hitting close to home here with news coming out of Milwaukee this week. Talk a little bit about the situation there.
Oh, well, many people were surprised, but talking to my sources in Milwaukee, this is something that's been dreaded and practically expected over the last at least 2 years, even before Archbishop Dolan came from Milwaukee to New York. Due to cases from decades ago, the Milwaukee Archdiocese has paid out already somewhere in the realm of $30 million between settlements and taking care of treatment for survivors. But there are still another dozen cases left to go, which the Archdiocese, despite having put its chancery on sale, and now will probably have to put its seminary on sale, they still didn't have enough. So the Chapter 11 was filed, or the petition went in on Tuesday. So we're going to be seeing a lot of depositions toward that end. And 8 American dioceses, Milwaukee's the 8th, to file for bankruptcy under the weight of sex abuse suits since 2002. It's rarely been a pleasant or a smooth experience for dioceses. I mean, I think of the dioceses on the West Coast, which have most of the dioceses that have filed for bankruptcy have been out west. And even though the bankruptcies have been emerged from for several years now, in Spokane, for example, the cathedral may have to be put up for sale to help fund claims as a result of the bankruptcy. In San Diego, there's lingering acrimony over the fallout of the bankruptcy. They've rarely been a pleasant experience. So
definitely,
it's a trying time,
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely something to watch as well. Just out of time, Rocco, but of course, as we can tell, a busy year coming up, so we'll, of course, keep you in our back pocket as well, and we'll talk to you throughout the year, I'm sure.
Anytime, Matt. Talk to you soon.
Rocco, thank you very much. Well, there is more currents coming up. Coptic Christians preparing to celebrate their Christmas amid worries of more attacks. That story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, an unlikely homecoming for a Brooklyn native with no home but a golden voice. But first, let's look at the day's headlines. Security is tight in Egypt as Coptic Christians prepare for their Christmas celebrations tomorrow. The government there ordering extra security, also blocking cars from parking near churches. Christians in Egypt have complained that the country is not doing enough to protect them after a suspected suicide bomber killed 23 people, injured up to 100 more at a New Year's Day Mass in Alexandria. Meanwhile, some Coptic churches in Canada scaling back their Christmas celebrations after the attack. Well, meanwhile, the World Watch List has released its annual ranking of the worst countries that persecute Christians. And for the 9th year in a row, North Korea tops that list. Iraq, meanwhile, jumping 9 spots to number 8 on the list. A series of attacks on Christians there started on October 31st when the bombing of a Catholic cathedral in Baghdad killed 58 people. We're getting more news about some recent persecution in Iran as well, which also ranked on that list at number 2. The organization Christian Solidarity Worldwide says more than 70 Christians were arrested or detained there over the Christmas period. It's still not clear why those arrests took place, but the organization says those taken in were interrogated and then placed in solitary confinement. Well, back here in the U.S., an update on another billboard battle. This time it's in Alabama, where an atheist group has its target aimed at all religions. Rebecca Schlein talked to residents there.
There it stands, right along one of Huntsville's main thoroughfares, right behind one of Huntsville's main landmarks. A billboard declaring that religions are scams, right in what some call the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Now that's kind of offensive, I think. That's pushing the wrong button, saying that religions, other people's beliefs are a scam.
Roger Newton was getting his car detailed on South Memorial Parkway when the controversial billboard caught his eye.
I don't know why they need to put up a billboard to advertise it. I don't think your average Huntsvillian driving by is going to go, oh, I think I'll become an atheist and go to the convention. So that probably is just trying to stoke the fire a little bit.
But the atheist group responsible for the billboard insists they aren't trying to offend. I spoke with their local leader at the site of their convention.
We understand that people are going to get upset at it. I mean, we get that. But that's not our intent. Our intent is to let our fellow atheists and skeptics know you're not alone.
He says the billboard's provocative slogan is achieving their desired result.
So the billboard is working. We've gotten hundreds of emails from closeted atheists who are a real target audience. These are people that go to church still because they're afraid to come out of the closet because my wife will leave me if she finds out I'm an atheist, or my kids will hate me, or my boss will fire me.
I think everybody should have a right to advertise. It's the United States of America. I've been all over the world, and people don't have that right.
I think if anything positive will come out of it, they'll come eat at the restaurant, spend some money, stay in the hotels, and Huntsville will collect some tax dollars. So Lord knows we could use it.
That report from Rebecca Schlein in Huntsville, Alabama. Well, when it comes to the new Congress, it's a gathering of believers. The Pew Forum releasing its analysis of the religious makeup of the House and Senate. More than half, 56.8% as a matter of fact, are Protestants. Catholics, meanwhile, make up close to 30%. And no members of Congress are unaffiliated, but a little more than 1% did not specify a particular religion. And from Missouri, when a tornado was heading his way on New Year's Eve, one priest did not panic. He just used his weather training. We get details now from Jeff Bernthal.
The damage from the sky tells one story. This exclusive look inside tells another.
We were very, very lucky and very, very blessed.
Monsignor Mike Diekman is also a ham radio operator and a trained weather spotter.
I'm standing here now because of my weather spotter training, also the grace of God, but my weather spotter training told me when it was dangerous.
It was New Year's Eve when the weather turned nasty. The Monsignor was ready to send out a warning.
I had the radio right here, ready to press and make the next report when all heck broke loose.
His training helped him recognize danger. He shouted to another priest to take cover. They only made it halfway down the stairs, but they were just in time.
And the other priest was right behind me. We heard the loud boom, and then it got quiet. And that was it, 15 seconds at the most.
The roof caved in where the other priest had been working, and debris crashed down on a receptionist desk that was fortunately empty. No one was hurt. The Monsignor surveyed the damage with the man who trained him, Mike Redman. He's taught more than 400 severe weather classes.
And certainly it's scary, but if you know what to do, you can save your life.
The tornado might have buried a sign that read safety first, but it did not cause the Monsignor to panic. His advice is to take a severe weather training course.
And plan ahead. We were going to our designated spot in the basement when it hit. We didn't make it, but thank goodness we were in a safe place.
Thank goodness indeed. That report from Jeff Bernthal. Well, stay tuned. There's much more currents coming up. When we return, celebrating the journey of three kings and the end of the Christmas season.
It's so fun seeing all the marching bands and the children from the schools.
Welcome back. Well, for Christians around the world, today is the Feast of the Epiphany, the close of the Christmas season. At the Vatican, Pope Benedict marked the occasion with Mass at St. Peter's. Now, this feast recalls the visit of the three kings, or the wise men, to the baby Jesus in Bethlehem. In his homily, the Pope noted that astronomers have long wondered about what kind of star the wise men followed. But he added that what was truly important was that the travelers were in search of the true light of God. Benedict also used the feast to emphasize that the universe is not the result of chance, but part of God's design. Now, Rome, of course, isn't the only place where the faithful celebrate the Feast of the Three Kings. We saw that earlier today when we sent our cameras to Upper Manhattan.
Three Kings Day is really big, mostly in the Caribbean and in Puerto Rico. We've been doing this for 34 years, and they're like different elements that are keep coming back every year. One of them is the puppets that I have right behind me. They're 14 feet tall, and they represent each of the kings. At the same time, you're going to see in the parade that we are honoring, we have our three honorary kings, which represent the three roots of the Latin American culture, which is the African, European, and pre-Columbian.
I am one of the honorary kings.
I play the role of Gaspar.
Even though I'm a woman.
I'm being honored as one of the kings.
I'm actually representing the pre-Columbian traditions of our Latin American countries, and that makes a lot of sense for me as a Puerto Rican. Both my mother and my father were born in Puerto Rico.
This costume represents Cervantes, and we feel it is the symbol of the Hispanic language, the Español, the Castellano, to the city of New York.
This is my 16th parade, and I enjoy it. I feel like a little kid, and I like communing with the children. I think it's the kind of day that makes everybody a little kid.
The puppets are beautiful, and it's so fun seeing all the marching bands and the children from the schools.
I liked the big costumes.
This is our Puerto Rican tradition. This is a holiday for us.
I like the music a lot and the people marching by.
In Puerto Rico on this day is when all the gifts are given. Instead of the Santa Claus, the three kings.
Something like this really tells, especially our children, what wonderful traditions we have and how important it is to keep that. I think we need to make sure that we give that message to the kids and give them a sense of pride, because that's really a lot of the issues that face immigrants are they just feel that maybe they're not treated as well, but they really need to have their own sense of self-pride. That's important.
More and more, it's not only Latinos celebrating Three Kings, but non-Latinos alike, because the culture of the Latinos are part of this city and part of the tradition that we all share in common. So what I'm really completely excited about is that the fact that the Latino culture is now be part totally of New York culture.
Well, stay where you are. There's more currents ahead. Just ahead, it may already be the feel-good story of the new year. This Brooklyn native with no home but a golden voice gets a new lease on life. Well, finally tonight, the year is young, but one Brooklyn native's saga may already be the feel-good story of the year. 2 days ago, a reporter for the Columbus Dispatch posted this video you're about to see on YouTube. It's a short video of a homeless man named Ted Williams with barely a penny to his name, but with something else that was pure gold: his voice.
When you're listening to nothing but the best of oldies, you're listening to Magic 98.9. Thank you so much. God bless you.
It's just amazing. Well, Williams explained that he'd grown up in Brooklyn, had a career as a radio announcer, as a matter of fact, but then he fell on hard times after battles with drugs and alcohol. Well, clean and sober for 2 years now, he told the reporter he was looking for a second chance the only way he knew how: standing on the side of the road, begging. Well, at last count, over 12 million people around the world had seen that very video and heard that amazing voice. And it has definitely paid off in ways Williams might never have imagined. An update now from Andy Hirsch.
On any given day, you could take the Hudson Street exit off I-71 and find Ted Williams standing on the corner, hoping for help from a friendly passerby. But today, the sign Williams holds is more of a prop than anything else, a photo shoot for the network television crews following his every move. The homeless man with a golden voice is a star, posing for pictures with friends from the neighborhood. Instead of asking drivers for money, he's waving to them as they drive by.
Squally D!
And it all started with this.
And don't forget, tomorrow morning is your chance to win a pair of tickets to see this man live in concert.
A video Dispatch photographer Doral Chenoweth posted to the internet Monday. WNCI put Williams on the air Tuesday. By the time he was back this morning, job offers were pouring in from around the world, including from MTV and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I mean, I have Hawaii. I have Ireland. I have people that are willing to fly you out to do voice work, to participate on their shows.
The media frenzy followed Williams back to the spot where he spent the past year panhandling.
It's just crazy. I love it, but then at the same time I'm getting so, oh God, what am I supposed to do with all of this newfound fame? As you can see, it's a makeshift camp back here.
Williams even showed us the tent he once called home, a home he's ready to leave behind to make the most of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
The biggest prayers that I've ever had was that I wanted my mom to live long enough for me to see, for her to see me have a second chance, because she didn't raise me to be holding a sign.
Definitely moving there. And I remember kind of at the height of all of this, a friend of mine sent me that video, and I was just absolutely astonished by his voice. And I literally posted, I think on my Facebook or wherever, I said, reposted the video and said, somebody give this man a job, you know, because he really deserves it. And apparently he's gotten offers coming from all over the place. Just an amazing story there about survival, and also a great story about the power of the internet. Now, Williams says he hasn't accepted any of those job offers. He's kind of still taking it all in, I guess, trying to wait for the shock to wear off. Well, that is it for tonight. Now, coming up tomorrow, as Migration Week draws to a close, we'll go into the deep with Bishop DiMarzio on the subject of immigration. In the meantime, though, remember, we're always online at currentsny.net. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.